So we are joined by one of our regular guests here in the Jackson area, my friend, graduate of Mississippi State, graduate of Jackson State University, engineering extraordinaire there with the GSA, with the federal government, Quinn Braboy, just such a great ambassador for young engineers here in the Jackson area. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. Hi, everyone. So I guess I'll just get into it. So my name is Quinn Braboy. I am a Jackson native, and a graduate of Murray High School. So, go Mustangs. And then once I graduated from high school, I decided well, I guess a little bit. I don't tell people a lot about this much, but I did decide to go to the military, go to the Army. It wasn't for me, but then I transferred to Mississippi State and I completed my undergraduate in civil engineering, and then started working. Moved back to Jackson, started working for a private engineering firm. Loved it. It was, a great learning experience. And then I decided that I wanted to pursue engineering even further and decided to get a master's in it at Jackson State. My end goal after I finish my career is to teach, students like yourselves about STEM and engineering because it's really a passion of mine. I love it. So after getting my master's, I continued to work at the private firm for a little bit, and then I decided to go public sector and started working with the city of Jackson. So I was with the city of Jackson probably a little less than 4 years. That was a great experience because I do like serving the public. I think at heart, I'm a natural public servant. So once I left the city, I did work for the VA for a year as basically a project manager, project engineer. And that was interesting because I got into like healthcare, projects in a healthcare setting, learned quite a bit. And now I have pivoted and now I'm a project manager with GSA, General Services Administration. That's still with the federal government. Basically, GSA is we manage all the federal buildings. So in the area, we have like courthouses. Like I know the newest one is like the Thad Cochran Courthouse, the federal courthouse.
Mhm.
GSA manages that building. We also manage the McCoy, and then it's
Yep.
other buildings throughout the state that we manage. Yeah. So the team I'm on is project delivery team for GSA, and our region, I guess to say our division is region 4 is pretty much the southeast. But my particular group, we do Florida and Mississippi. So quite a few of my projects are actually in Florida. But I do have some here in Mississippi. Like I have a project in Aberdeen, and I have a project here in Jackson at the McCoy building, which is where I am based. That's my home office. As you can tell, I am at home. So with GSA, it's flexible as far as like my work schedule and location. I guess a little bit more about my background because I kind of just went through it fast. I've always loved math and science. So that's just kind of been what I go towards. I know a lot of people don't like math, but I love math. I love science. I do not like writing papers, but that is life. You got to read and write, and you also have to add and subtract. So, but my passion has always been math and just building, putting things together, which kind of helped me get into engineering. And then also, I had family members. I have an uncle who, he's very dear to my heart. He's a civil engineer, and he helped me pick civil engineering because when I went to school, sorry, that was the mailman. That's my dog. But when she hears everything. But anyway, so when I was growing up, seeing him do what he did, in civil engineering, I was always curious. So it was kind of like, okay, little shadow, and it was good, early on seeing the field. So pretty much, and then I kind of came to a crossroad because when I was growing up, also computers became really big. So I was like, I still like, math and science. I like computers. So it was pretty much between civil engineering and computer engineering. And I decided my freshman year of college, I took, I'm an advocate of try it, to see if you like it or love it. So I took a computer engineering class, and it was challenging. I had a great professor, but I realized this was not my passion. I was like, okay, this is for someone else. And I really enjoyed my civil engineering classes. So that's how I made the decision to go into civil engineering, the final decision.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about engineering is that it's so diverse, because obviously we see a lot more of the civil engineering work with the bridges and the buildings. And I know you did a lot with the waterworks there in Jackson. But the computer engineering is getting more and more popular as well, because for the civil engineers to be able to work, there has to be software programs built. There has to be certain types of technology that operate the machine. So they really do work hand in hand. So there really is a place for both of them.
Yes, and we're all connected. And then, like you said, so I work with mechanical engineers, I work with electrical engineers, and we're all just intertwined with our engineering. And then there are subsets under, like, civil engineering has about 5 subsets. Like, you have construction engineering, you have environmental, you have geotechnical, which deals with the soil. So it's different subsets and it's very diverse. So I feel like, you can always find something in engineering totality and even civil engineering that, is really your passion or like your niche that you really enjoy.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand that engineering jobs are on the rise in all industries. And now, I know, and we'll talk about this in a second, but you went to Mississippi State, then went to Jackson State. Jackson State in the last few years has really put themselves on the map with engineering. Ole Miss now has a great engineering program. And then Hines and Holmes Community College have the Associates of Engineering, where you can get engineering certification and start working in the field immediately at 19, 20 years old. So there are a lot of entry points to engineering. Now, you did do the PWI and then the HBCU, which, I like hearing people's different perspectives on that, because I think it's important, because Mississippi State and Jackson State both offer so many things, but it's all about how you choose to accept it, because obviously there's pros and cons of both, but I know you had a great experience at both. So talk a little bit about how, the PWI experience at Mississippi State and then shifting to the HBCU experience at Jackson State.
Okay, so like I said, my to go into that, my experience was great at both. So, being from Jackson, growing up here, I wanted to get away. So my first 2 years of college, I was in New York. Then I was like, okay, this is not for me. Let me get back closer to home, but I don't want to be in Jackson. So I was like, oh yeah, Mississippi State has a great engineering program. Let me go there. I enjoyed my years there. I guess a little bit about me. So I had my fun. I did my lesson. I pledged. I'm an AKA. So I loved, I had my sorority sisters. I love my whole environment. I'm a football fan. I love football, high school, college, pro. So I had my season tickets at Mississippi State. And the culture around Mississippi State was um, just very, it kind of reminded me of high school in a sense, but on a bigger scale, because when I was at Murrah, it was diverse. So I was like, okay, I am around all of my different peers, and you just meet people from all over the US, the world. So Mississippi State was a bigger version of, I guess I would say, my high school coming up, but I really did enjoy it. So graduate, move back to Jackson, start working, and then I'm like, okay, I want to get my master's. Let me go to Jackson State. It is a great school. Their engineering program is still growing, but
Yeah.
they still have a state of art building, everything. They were getting a lot of funding to build on their engineering school. And I was like, this would be a great opportunity. HBCU, I love it. I have always been a Jackson State fan growing up, being from Jackson. So I was like, let me go get my master's from there. For me, that was a great, I would say, at the time of my life, being a young professional, they really worked with me. It felt like home. It felt like family. More so at Jackson State, because at the time, I was working full time and pursuing a graduate degree. They really just worked with me and showed me, okay, this is this is the options that you can do to make sure you excel and complete your degree. I still keep in touch with the chair, some of my professors. So, like, again, both experiences were great, and I can't really, it's like a lot of people, I know you want to compare, but I can't really compare because the experiences, I was at a different life stage with each one, but both of them were very positive for me. Like you said, I think when you go in with an open mind and know, okay, this is the end goal, I'm trying to get my degree and learn as much as possible, then your experiences are going to be positive regardless.
Yeah, and I know you were a part of a great MPHC organization there with AKA at Mississippi State, and I think a lot of kids are interested in that, and that's great. You know, the Greek life is a great part of college life, but everybody doesn't have to do that. And I would even argue that I know you were also part of NSBE there at Mississippi State, the National Society of Black Engineers, and they have those type of organizations at PWIs and HBCUs, and that's where your networking comes from, because you can be great in the classroom, which obviously is important in engineering, but that gets you in contact with people to do internships with. That gets you maybe a chance to do an interview or shadow somebody over the summer. So I think it's important as kids look towards their college career that, you know, if you don't want to do the whole Greek thing, that's fine, but you still need to find your place in certain student organizations.
Yes. So I know I had touched on this last year and I sing it to the top of my lungs every time. Find your tribe. And your tribe can be, you know, in a sorority, it can be your friends from high school that you know, so having to go to college with you, or it can be an organization. I know at Mississippi State, NSBE was really big. And then also we had like the Black Student Alliance. Yeah. I can't remember exactly, but it was a student alliance of students from Black that were Black, excuse me. So that was good because you were able to meet your peers that, you know, y'all all going through the same thing, you're all in college at the same time, and you can network. And then Mississippi State and Jackson State both were really good with career fairs and networking events and just events that they have for the students to just prepare you to be successful in whatever career you choose. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you have your fun, but you're going to school to graduate and be successful in whatever career that you're going in. And if it's STEM, they definitely have the resources to make sure that you're successful.
Yeah, and now another thing I wanted to hit on is you talked about how you have to work across other disciplines. Maybe some kids maybe aren't interested in doing the 4-year college thing, but what are some of the trades that you deal with on an everyday basis in engineering? Because obviously, as the project is being fixed or renovated or built or whatever, there have to be certain skilled workers to come in there and make these things happen. So, what are some big trades that you're seeing that are really big in the engineering field now?
I would say the contractors. So at GSA they call them vendors, but I'm used to calling them contractors. And pretty much any skilled labor from electrical, like pulling wiring for, you know, a building that we have renovations in. I know quite a few of my clients with GSA, it's security upgrades. So you have to have skilled workers who know how to wire this building for, you know, the rest, which is kind of like the emergency signals, because a lot of, you know, we're in secure facilities, they have to have that.
Yep.
We have to have like the keypads and the ID card swipes. Those have to be, you know, installed correctly and configured for whatever system that they're using. Also, you have workers when it comes to, especially, you know, we're having a heat wave. So we have a lot of repairs when it comes to like chillers and HVAC units. You need those skilled workers because as a project manager or even as an engineer, I can design the project and I can say, okay, this is what needs to be fixed, but we have to have those skilled workers to fix it. And you have to make sure that people know, okay, this is the specifications, those details when it comes to, for instance, a HVAC unit. You know, you have to size it to the space that you're having. I don't, you know, I I would know the size. A mechanical engineer, he probably would know the size, but he wouldn't know how to install it. So you have to have those skilled workers that are hired by contractors and our vendors to install it correctly and get the job done. Because we know nobody wants to be hot. You know, you know, it's like an emergency if the air goes out, and I'm just using that as an example because you want to make sure that you have, you know, the project is done right and correctly. And then even with large scale projects, all the all skilled labor workers. So our newest building, the Thad Cochran, federal courthouse, when it was built, you had to have all hands on deck to build this massive building. And then it even goes down to, okay, once your building is erected, you know, have your laborers to pour the concrete and things like that. Okay, so now the building's up, the finishes, interior finishes, that is all tied together with engineering, because from the ceiling tiles to the paint color on the wall to the carpet, you know, that's how detailed it gets. And you have to have skilled workers to install everything correctly to meet what the client wants.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because we have kids every year that say, well, I want to work with my hands, but I don't really want to do the 4-year college thing. And there are tons of very high paying opportunities that they can learn in 1 to 2 years, and they can be working side by side with engineers, um, engineers like yourself. And that's also what I was going to talk about next is, if people want a good mix of maybe in the office and out in the field, I know you've got some great pictures of you out there wearing the hard hat at the project site. It really is, you get to design it, work on it, and then you get to go see it made. So it really is a start to finish thing, and you're not just stuck in an office all day.
Right. And that's what I do love about being an engineer, the versatility. It's very versatile. I know more so with the city, but even with my project management role here, like I said, I have quite a few projects in Florida. So I have some hurricane repair projects. I had to go do a site visit. I'm on the roof. To me, that's exciting because I like not to sit at a desk all day, even though that is a part of my job. But I do like to go out into the field. And then it's a very wonderful feeling to see a project that you started and you see the end result. You see the repairs being made or the building being built. And now people are walking in and it's serving the purpose that, it was designed to serve. So it's a great fulfilling moment when you see your projects, from beginning to end. And I know I touched on it as far as being a public servant. So definitely with the federal government, I'm a public servant. It's the taxpayer public money that we're spending. We're making sure that it is, used responsibly to get these projects done.
I just got two more before I get to the students' questions. And I know we talked about this before as well, is that obviously there is a need for female engineers and there's a need for Black female engineers. And you said yourself at Mississippi State, a lot of times you looked around, you were the only female and you were the only Black person. And it was intimidating at times. So there's obviously a growing need to diversify this field, just like any other field. So talk a little bit about that experience and what you've seen, how it's grown, and why these kids that these young ladies and these kids that aren't white should consider getting into this field.
Yes, so yeah, at Mississippi State, that was kind of a cultural shock, I would say, coming from Murrah, where it was more diverse. So in civil engineering, like you stated, I was the only. Well, I wasn't the only. I was the only Black female. There were maybe 2 or 3 other white females in my class, and then 3 or 4 other Black males. But when I graduated, yes, I was the only one. So as I got higher up into my courses at Mississippi State, I would literally be the only one in class. I did have a little, again, that's that word, tribe. I had a little tribe of friends that I call it like the little misfits in a sense. We didn't pretty much, fit into the norm of civil engineering at the time. But that helped because that helped get me out of my comfort zone. I am naturally introverted, so I had to, find positive ways to overcome. And I had to remember, and also lean on my faith that this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to, I'm going to be a civil engineer and I'm going to succeed at this. And that positive self-talk and having my tribe helped. Even though, like I said, it was challenging because when you do look around the room, you see no one who looks like you. Sometimes you can go inward and come, with kind of self-doubt talk, but you just have to really lean into the people who are there to help like serve you. So as far as like growth, I do love to see engineers who look just like me. Actually, at my current job, they're starting an initiative, and I'm gonna be a part of it, called Women in Construction. So they're
Oh, wow.
realizing that we need to, yes, like network with each other inside of our own organization to, connect, because a lot of us share very similar stories. We were the only one, in our class, or we were the only one in our field starting out as young engineers. So I love to see, women who look like me in my field. And it's like, okay, yeah, let's network, let's connect. And you just learn from each other. And it's almost like you build a sisterhood, because you are building a sisterhood within your career. And that's always a positive. And like I said, it helps with the networking. And then it also helps just like sharing that information and knowledge and encouragement also, because they have gone through some of the similar experiences, and also they have come out of it, and they can share that advice, or you can share advice with similar experiences that you have gone through.
Yeah.
So there is a need. There's
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say there is a need for diversity in engineering, because so my perspective will be different from someone else's perspective. Just
Mhm.
like, I know it's kind of a hot topic, but like DEIA, diversity and inclusion and things like that, that is needed. It's not just, just a one or something to check off. It's very much needed, because different perspectives allow you to solve problems and just approach situations holistically in a better way.
Yeah, and that's why I really encourage anybody with me now, anybody watching later, just because you don't see a lot of people in your field doesn't mean you shouldn't get into it. Just because you're the first at something doesn't mean you can't be the best at something, whether it's engineering or not. Obviously, there's a big need in engineering because of the growth of engineering education, but I just really encourage anybody, just because your family did something else or other people that look like you did something else, that doesn't mean that you can't be the first to get into a field and be great at it. I'm a huge believer in that.
Right.
Now, the
Yes.
last thing before I get to the
Make your own path. Well, I was just gonna
absolutely
say,
not.
yeah, forge your own path. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the last thing before I get to the students' questions, and I know I always ask this because I think it's funny. We do a lot of simple engineering projects in here, and I know the other teachers do as well. And then the first time they mess up, oh, this is too hard, I can't do it. How often do engineers get it right the first time?
9 times out of 10, 10. like 10 times out of 10, we do not get it right the first time. And that's something that you kind of learn in engineering, iteration. That was big. And I used to be like, wow, just my curious brain sometimes with some of my classes, like, why are we doing this? Like, you would do 15 iterations, and you might finally get close enough to the answer that you're looking for. So yes, in engineering, you do not always get it right. It is problem solving, and sometimes problem solving takes more than just one solution, and it's not wrong. So, all right, it's just that, this might be a better way for this particular problem to solve. So
Yeah,
it's
and the
you
funny
don't get
thing
it
is,
right.
in the engineering design process, it actually has built in to change what you've done. So, the overall universal thought of engineers is that you never get it right the first time. So, I think the other teachers would appreciate that, to hear it from a professional engineer, that never, ever, and this is, y'all are doing things that we depend on to live. So, y'all are not getting it right the first time, doing a lot of stuff that's a lot more hard than what we're doing in class. So, I'll ask every engineer that, and I always think it's funny because you all say the same thing. Um, but I do have just a few questions from the students. This first one is Michael Sherrill. He's a sophomore, and he asked, "What is it that makes your job so hard?"
I think that's relative. I guess for me, it would be, like I said, I'm an introvert. I wouldn't say hard, but sometimes challenging. I have to be an extrovert at times. So I do have to meet with multiple clients, and they have different demands. So that might be the most challenging part, I feel like, of my job at the moment, which is be accommodating my different customers and clients to get them what they need. But then I also have to remember that's my job. That is what I signed up for. And I do enjoy, solving their problems and getting their projects done, and being responsive to whatever their needs are.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I'm a big believer that no matter what field you're in, you've got to be able to talk and do business. These kids want to get so mad when we make them do a presentation, but it's really just to practice that because no matter what field you're in, obviously me and you are comfortable speaking in front of large groups, but you got to be able to be comfortable to speak in front of a small group or a one-on-one. You got to tell somebody how much it costs. You got to tell somebody the job you can do. If not, they're going to find somebody else. So that skill
Right.
never goes away. And if that's, and I know it's a struggle for some people. You could be a skilled engineer and struggle at communicating, but that's something you can work on and get better at. And,
Yeah.
and I think it's something that's lost in this whole generation because everybody's all on their phones. They forget how to talk. But that is so vital to any field, as as in engineering, where you're dealing with a client that's paying millions of dollars. You've got money at stake, you've got safety at stake, you've got the
Mhm.
environment at stake. So you really have to be able to communicate that. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That is a great point.
Yes.
This is Rendell Ellis. He's a freshman, and he asked, other than the 6 years of college that you had, how many years have you spent training to be a skilled engineer?
So, yes. So I've been an engineer for over 15 years. I've been a professional engineer for, and I'll go into detail about that, for about 6 years now. So the way engineering goes is you have to, get your bachelor's degree in civil engineering from a ABET accredited school. Then you have 4 years of basically like apprenticeship before you can sit and
Wow.
take your test, yeah, to become a
Wow.
professional engineer. So, and then I kind of skipped a step. So, you get your bachelor's degree, and then you take a fundamental exam. We call it the FE of engineering, and it's not just in civil engineering. You can take, mechanical, electrical, computer. You take that fundamental engineering exam, pass that, and 4 years of experience, 4 years apprenticeship, and then you can sit for your professional engineering exam, which
Okay.
I'll be honest, it took me a while. It took me a couple of tries. And you can, so it's like I said, the subsets of civil engineering. So originally I worked on a structural engineer, and I was really interested into structures. So I sat for my structural, at the time, civil engineering subset structural engineering professional exam. I did not pass it. I took it 3 times. It was hard. Did not pass it. Then that mentor at the time, he left. So I was like, okay, well, I know I want to be a professional engineer. Let's see what else. So that's how I got into environmental and water engineering, civil engineering and I took the professional engineering exam for that and passed that.
Wow.
So yes. So
I did not know that. I mean, now I have heard about the exam, and you're not the first person. But I mean, I'm sure you know that you're not the first person to say it took me multiple attempts. So that is a common tale, and that goes back to engineering. The first time is usually not going to work. No, it takes trial and
right.
error. It takes working on things that do work. And I think that's a great analogy. Just got one more. This is to Kevian Boyd. He's a sophomore. He's very interested in video game design, so he's really looking on the tech side, computer engineering. And he asked, "What are some steps someone can take in high school to start becoming a successful engineer?"
I would say to hone in on your passion. So I see that his passion is video gaming. Maybe find groups or even school groups that cater to that, and just learn as much as you can. I know sometimes, people like, I feel like when you have a passion about something and you're learning about it, it's not a task. It's fun because that's what you're
Yeah,
interested in. So
absolutely.
sometimes that might be, yeah, like finding a computer class. I know they have a lot of content now that is free online, or even maybe I know sometimes with in college, not excuse me, not in college, but in high school, you can take some college courses or get college credit. So that's something else. And I would say just find, it might be non-traditional ways to get into engineering. Honestly, we're all into engineering. We just don't know it. Engineering touches our lives like all the time. So finding like, okay, I'm into video games. Well, let me see. Or even shadowing someone. I know like mentors and professionals in the field that you're interested in. Sometimes That's when the networking comes in. You have to, kind of get out your shell and maybe ask like, hi, can I, shadow you for a day? Or do you have any like advice about getting into it and getting into this career field? So some things are simple as that. And then when you think about it, it could be someone that you just maybe you're in the video game store and someone's in there frequently, or maybe the owner or the manager, and you talk to them, and they're like, oh yeah, I know this computer engineer, or, oh, I know this particular person, I'll connect y'all and you can start from there. Sometimes it takes a simple conversation, but yes, just start, don't stay comfortable because you could miss out on, some blessings. So definitely like seek out things and you'll be surprised like what comes to you as far as opportunities to hone into engineering.
Well, something we have here in Madison County, and I know our middle school students that see this may not be aware of this. We actually have an engineering and robotics academy at our career center, and they have an engineering academy at Original High School. And they also have an animation simulation program. They have an IT associate program. So that's all ways in high school to start getting engineering skills to maybe just, to do even just want to do the 1 or 2 year program where you could get an engineering job, start working in the field, and then work your way up into that bachelor's to a licensed engineer. And you started in high school. So that's something available for all Madison County students now.
That's great. That's really good because you also said a lot of the resources sometimes, you have to be connected to the students so they know what's available to them. That is really great that Madison County has those opportunities.
Yeah, and I just had to plug that because I'm not sure if our middle school students were aware of that. But we're almost out of time, and we always thank you so much for joining us because it's such a gem of knowledge when you do join us. But you're right down the road in Jackson. It's not like you're on the other side of the world, and you grew up in the Jackson area as a young Black girl. Jackson Public Schools. You went to the same colleges in Mississippi that these kids are looking at, and yet you've become a successful licensed engineer in a field dominated by men. So what can these kids do right now to follow in similar footsteps coming from similar situations?
I would say, feed into your passion. So yes, I did have an uncle who so happened to be a civil engineer, but it's just opportunities are there for you, like with the school system, and even like I know some of the kids, you might go to church, just kind of asking around and just being curious, and you would be surprised how many doors just open up and things, quote unquote, fall into your lap because you showed the initiative. So sometimes it's just asking a question and the right person around is around. They hear the question like, "Oh yeah, I will definitely. Yeah, I can get back to you. I can get you information on that." So yes, just being open to the whole process because sometimes being a minority, you might be the only person in the room, but you're there for a reason and you're supposed to be there. And I hope to see some of your students soon, like in engineering, because I love it, and I love to
Yeah,
I do see people who look like me in my field.
that's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us, Quinn Braboy, right there in Jackson, GSA engineer, one of the best. Thank you as always.
Thank you. Y'all have a good
All right,
one.
talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye bye.
See ya.